This is my BS2 2009 Hero Honda Hunk. For all the 16 years, the motorcycle has run great. But ever since the government decided to introduce E20 Petrol in India, the motorcycle has been encountering problems like this for starting, during acceleration. It is very difficult to overtake someone. On cold days, the starting is very problematic. Also, the idling is rough. This is happening not because of the engine, not because of maintenance, but due to the nature of E20 Petrol. This engine was designed for E0 petrol, that means pure petrol and 0% ethanol. So I decided not to change the motorcycle, but to change the fuel delivery system to adapt with E20 fueling. Today I will show you two methods on how to do this to your own motorcycle which has a carburetor. The first one is a DIY jugaad way. It does not cost you anything and it takes only 30 minutes of work. But it has a few minor disadvantages which I will tell you later in the video. And the second one is the proper factory method. Also, I will give you a scientific explanation of all the modifications later in the video. So stick with me till the end if you are interested in that. First, access the carburetor side of the motorcycle and remove the protective covering of the carburetor, which has usually 2 or 3 screws. Now remove the side panel for easy access to the carburetor. Now unscrew the retaining screws of the air inlet and air outlet manifolds. We will not remove the carburetor totally from the motorcycle. We will just loosen the air intake and air outlet manifolds so as to tilt the carburetor to our side. We will only access the bottom of the carburetor. That is our goal. Now unscrew the throttle wire. And remove it. Now tilt the carburetor so as to access the bottom, the float chamber. Now unscrew the float chamber. It is usually held by 2 or 3 screws for a Kaihin type carburetor that is shown in this video. Now remove the float chamber. Now you can see the 2 jets. That is the main point of concern in this video. This is the main jet. This is responsible for fuel delivery at high speeds and while overtaking, and this is the slowed jet. This is responsible for fuel delivery at slow speeds and slow RPM, and also while starting. Now unscrew the main jet from the carburetor using a flat tipped screwdriver. Now look at the main jet very closely. What size is written into it? Mine has a number 128. Now unscrew the slow jet using the same flat tipped screwdriver. Mine has the number 35 written into it. Now our goal is to increase the size so as to increase fuel delivery for ethanol based systems. We will increase the size a little bit. Now for the first jugaad way. Get a throttle or clutch cable and deassemble it and get the steel wires out. Now insert the steel wire into the slow jet and the main jet and move the slow jet and the main jet in this motion. Ask someone for help to keep the wire taut. Make sure you don't overdo it. Do it a few times. Plug it into your motorcycle, experiment and repeat until you get a sweet spot. Make sure you have a lot of patience for this. And the second method is go online and search for carburetor jets. Make sure you get a perfect fit for your model of carburetor, and this is the proper method. So I got these sets of 10 jets in the mail. I purchased these from Amazon. So the stock jet was 35. We will increase it by a few points. Let's try with 42. And the main jet size was 128. I will increase it by a few points also. These are the numbers written. So I am trying with a slow jet size of 42 and the main jet size of 135 up from 128. I am plugging the main jet now. This main jet is responsible for high speed riding and for high acceleration while overtaking. I am plugging the slow jet now. The slow jet is responsible for city riding, idling and riding at low RPMs. The slow jet is very important for cold starting. Because ethanol eats away at the gaskets, I will change the gasket of the float chamber of the carburetor. I will change it with a new one. It is better if you get an ethanol compatible gasket or E20 compatible gasket. Otherwise, you can use this and change every time you feel that there is fuel leaking. Now reinstall the float chamber. Our work is done here. Now we are undoing what we have done. Reinstall the float chamber now. Reinstall the throttle cable properly and make sure you tighten the bolt. This is very important for your safety. Make sure you tighten these nut bolts properly. Now tighten the retainers of the air intake and air exhaust manifolds. This is very important. Don't forget that. Make sure the carburetor is tight. Make sure there is no free play. Now let us test the motorcycle. You can see that the choke is off. I will prove this is a cold start. See the temperature. It's just 19 degrees. That is the engine temperature. I am showing this to prove this is a cold start of the motorcycle. The choke is off. The motorcycle starts up immediately. And see the throttle response. Now we will go for a ride to check. Let's go to feed Mahadev's children. Let's warm up the motorcycle also in the process. Because the next part is very important, that is warm tuning. Look here, as the motorcycle has warmed up, the engine is stalling. This is then indicative of a rich fuel mixture. Now for the tuning. You can see that the idle is hanging around. This is a rich fuel mixture. Now comes the most important part, the tuning. Go to the opposite side you worked on. Access the pilot screw. Tighten it. Tighten it by a half turn every time and test. And adjust your idle accordingly. You should aim for a crisp throttle response, and the throttle should not be hanging around. Only do this on a warm engine. The throttle should drop when you release the throttle. The RPM should drop when you release the throttle. Adjust the RPM accordingly, according to your manual. It should be around 1500 RPM. The mixture is a bit rich still now. I will have to reduce the fuel delivery a bit again. Let's try half turns again. The mixture is still rich. The idle takes a while to fall. You have to repeat this process a few more times and check that the throttle response is crisp and the idle falls sharply as you release the throttle. Also check that there is no white or black smoke being emitted from the exhaust. Check it under a flashlight. Now for the scientific explanation as promised. Older carbureted motorcycles like my Hero Honda Hunk were designed for E0 petrol, that is pure petrol. E20 fuel contains 20% ethanol, and that changes everything. Ethanol contains oxygen. That means the same jetting size now delivers less fuel for the same air, making the engine run lean. A lean mixture burns hotter, slower, and is very hard to ignite, especially when the engine is cold. So, why do problems show up first during cold start and idle and during the winter months? Carburetors rely on fuel evaporation, not sensors like the modern motorcycles. Ethanol evaporates poorly when cold compared to petrol. So the mixture becomes even leaner at startup, and that causes knocking also when the engine is cold, and this knocking is very dangerous for the engine. It tears the engine from the inside out. And because of this lean mixture at startup while cold, you get very hard starting, unstable idle, stalling, and hesitation on throttle. Remember, this is also very damaging for your engine unless you modify the fuel delivery system. And why do you hear knocking in the engine? When a lean mixture burns too hot, combustion can start late or become uneven. That causes knocking. Knocking is the uncontrolled pressure waves and the shock waves created inside the cylinder. Remember, shock waves are very dangerous. And this knocking is not just noise, it is mechanical stress. Listen to this knocking sound from my motorcycle. So, what is the long term damage from running E20 on older carbureted motorcycles that were designed for E10 or E0? Prolonged lean running can cause overheating, burned valves, cause piston crown damage, spark plug overheating, and also damage the head gasket. Ethanol is also hygroscopic, it absorbs moisture which can corrode jets, float needles, and aluminum carburetor bodies. So, if you are running an older carbureted motorcycle like me, running on E20 without modification, remember the engine is fighting the fuel, it is not enjoying it. Let me be very clear about one thing first. The Jugaad method does not damage the engine. We are only increasing fuel flow slightly to compensate for E20 fuel. There is no change to compression, timing, or engine geometry. The Jugaad method, the steel wire enlargement method, has a few advantages. The first is very low cost. It can be done quickly, no special parts required, and works reliably to fix a lean motorcycle running on E20. But there are a few minor limitations of this method. Because this hole is enlarged manually, the shape may not be perfectly smooth or centered. Instead of fine mist, the fuel spray inside the carburetor can become a little turbulent instead of smooth. This may lead to slightly inconsistent idling or marginally reduced fuel efficiency. But this is not harmful. It is just not perfectly optimized. But the proper method is replacing the main jet and the slow jet with a jet of a larger diameter. The advantages are perfectly sized orifice, better atomization, more reliable and stable idle, slightly better fuel efficiency, and more predictable long-term behavior. This is how the carburetor was originally meant to be tuned, just adapted for the E20. But the limitations are it costs more, you have to run around sourcing correct jets, and it needs a little bit more time and patience. But both methods solve the E20 lean running problem. The difference is not safety, it is precision. Jugaad works, the proper method works better. But let me emphasize this point. Neither method damages the engine in any way if done correctly. But not optimizing the fuel flow for a E0 or E10 motorcycle to use the E20 fuel is what causes engine damage. Because your motorcycle is running lean. An engine forgives rich mixture, but it does not forgive lean mixture. A lean mixture causes overheat, knocking and pinging, which slowly damages the engine from inside out. E20 fuel changed the chemistry, but the engine did not change. So we changed the fuel delivery system. So I'll be signing off now. This is Sky from Scratch. Thank you for flying with me today. Jai Hind.